excited to have him on board. And I actually get show this picture every week. Steve killing how many points was that? What's the point system?
8.
That was an 8 point. What's the total points? Like, how do you calculate the total point on a deer?
You just count the tips
No,
on
but
the.
then there's something with the weight, like it's got some like 175 point score or something.
Yeah, yeah, like when you turn it into the
Yeah, what is that? How does that
the
work?
State Department of. Well, I'm not really sure because I turned it because when I was turning it in on my cell phone,
Yeah.
how many points in the weight. Randy Wilson was driving, and we went over a bump. It's rough terrain, and it looked like what it came, had 8 points on the right and no points on the left. So I guess
That's a lopsided
I
deer, huh?
guess the state thought I'd killed an alien deer or something. But it's hard to go back and change it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly
Okay.
how the
Well,
point
anyway, there's
system.
the
But
deer that Steve killed with the equipment and bullets and ammunition that he bought from DeKalb Sportsman and Outdoor, or Sportsman and Pawns. I want to say that.
Stop it.
So I know it. I keep saying it. So
Yeah,
anyway,
anyway.
we're thankful to have those guys as sponsors for Lunch with Brian and Steve. And like I mentioned, we're going to have a new sponsor next week.
Yes, we
And so it
will.
might have something to do with finance, but we'll just leave it at that and promote those guys next week. But we're thankful to you guys for coming on board. We'll get you in next week. We're excited for you guys. So anyway, so we got a lot going on today. We're going one guest again. We mentioned last week from a programming note that we have shifted from two guests, one in the first hour and one in the second hour. And we're going to give a shot at one guest, let them cover and kind of straddle the 2 hours. So that means me and you got to come up with more stuff to talk about.
well, usually that's not a problem outside of here.
No, I know it.
Hopefully,
We can sit and talk for hours. Now we got to do
yeah,
it on the
we
air.
got to actually be entertaining and competent.
Just, yeah, to someone other than yourselves.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we got to make sure that we're entertaining to those folks out there. I do want to mention, I guess it's probably as good a time as any. And we mentioned it, I think it was last week or the week before, that Reese Colburn had passed away. That happened, if you're listening live, that happened this week or Sunday. And if you're not, then this is the week of. The funeral was yesterday. And so we want to give a shout out to Jennifer and Roman and Billy and Joy and all the rest of the family, Rocky. Just let you guys know that we're praying for you guys. I just don't, it's just hard to conceive. And I've heard this over and over again from parents. Burying your children is just one of the most difficult things in life. And know he was a believer. Know he his faith in Christ was strong, and so is the rest of the family. But just to give a shout out to those guys. And you were at the funeral yesterday, Holly. How was that? Was
Was.
there a lot of people there?
A lot of people, of course. It was beautiful. Randy Owen sang. Is
Did
it
he?
Owen or Owens? Is it
No
Owen?
S.
No
No
S.
S.
Okay, I don't know why I want to say Owens.
Yeah.
He sang "Angels Among Us,"
Oh, that's cool.
which, and he mentioned JC, of course, because his
Yeah.
granddaughter. He said that his granddaughter crawled up in his lap and said, "Papa, would you sing JC's song?"
Hmm.
And so, anyway,
That's cool.
so there was a lot of us that it just brought back a lot.
That
JC.
night when JC and they had the visitation, I'll never forget that night.
Yeah.
I was home for break, and of course Roman was in Tuscaloosa practicing for the national championship that year. And I remember where I was sitting at our house on Scenic Drive.
Yeah.
Dad walked in the room and said J.C. Colburn was killed in a car wreck. And
I was a youth counselor then.
Were you?
And we were having a party at Terrapin Hills, and then I had to announce it to them. Oh, that's awful.
just
Yeah.
brutal for what that family's gone through.
But
And
but their faith,
Oh, I know.
it's so beautiful. I know the Lord, Lord, why? But the beauty of their faith, the strength, the grace that they have walked in, going through something that none of us ever want to, and we can't imagine being able to.
yeah, and Billy having to go through it with his daughter, and now
Oh,
Roman
and
having to
then-
go through it with his son. I just wow.
Wow, and they showed a video of Reese kind of giving his testimony to the church, and that was beautiful too, to hear him just talk about, I don't want anybody to be mad at God. I mean,
Wow.
And it just, God's given me 20 good years, and I don't know. Anyway, but it was a beautiful ceremony. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't. It's really hard to fathom. And I know that, and I've heard it, and I've experienced this in my own life. When you go through difficult times, you don't feel prepared for it. But when you get there, It's like that old sermon illustration that I've heard before, that you're only going to get the ticket to the train when it's time to load the train. And so God's only going to give you the grace to go through something when it's time to go through that. And so definitely want to express our condolences to the entire Colburn family, and just know that we're praying for you guys, and thankful, I think, would be a good word for the witness and for the testimony and the resiliency that they're demonstrating. I mean, Coach Colburn, and I saw this in the obituary, the ultimate warrior was kind of his philosophy all the way through wrestling and coaching and all that. And Roman, of course, adapted that too. And Reese, they called him the ultimate warrior.
He was a fighter.
There were several times it was touch and go for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's one thing Roman, maybe it was Reese that said in his testimony, I don't remember, but that God gives us 4 quarters and we're in overtime. So we're going to enjoy every minute that God, it's all a gift. And, that could be said of all of us all the time. We don't know what quarter we're in.
It's funny. I've been listening to those podcasts I've talked about with my health guys and going through this health thing. And one of the things that I've been appreciative of on these podcasts is they talk not just about health and wellness and taking care of your body and what you're putting into your body as fuel sources, but also, like, are you taking time to absorb the day? And the guy that I listen to is a Christian, and so he's constantly saying, are you able to sit? One of the things that I've noticed about living here growing up, moving away for 20 years and coming back here, it's easy to forget or not notice how beautiful this place is. And I'm trying now, when I'm on my bus route or when I'm driving through town, when I'm at the church, when I get out of the church and I look, especially if the sun's setting and you can see Lookout Mountain with the sun glowing off of it, man, just go, thank you, Lord. Thank you for this. And the guys I'm listening to are talking about how much that's connected to good health. Pause, rest, meditation, thankfulness, gratitude.
And church on every other corner.
Church on every other corner. So
can't hurt.
No, can't hurt. Keep reminding us, Lord. Keep reminding us. So, guys, Roman, Jennifer, all you, Rocky, just know we love you guys. We're praying for you, and we're thankful for the life of Reese. We're thankful that it points others to Christ. And so, not to get too terribly preachy, but we can do that some. We're just glad that you guys are comforted through the comfort of the Holy Spirit. So, anyway, we still got a few more minutes left in this segment. Steve, what's been going on in your world? You still doing renovations?
Oh, it's about completed now, except for the railings on the new steps that weren't originally in the but it escalated a little bit. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, it's going well. We use the. I know this is riveting, but we use it as we fixed a door that's always been in the carport. It looked horrible.
Yeah.
And we just didn't. We sealed it up and didn't use it. But now it's all fixed up and we're using it. And it's coming a storm yesterday to go down for Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Youth. Hey, we just opened the door and got in our vehicle. Said, well,
You're like, wow.
Most people are smart enough to do this, and now, after 20 years, we are.
Well, speaking of houses, I sold my house. Did you know that?
I heard about that.
Yes. So we
Do you need to come stay at the house?
probably, well, we're not sure right now. It was one of those things where we kind of had a plan. And around Christmas time to list it, and we thought, okay, we're going to list it, and then we know where we're going to move, and had that kind of plan in place.
Well,
and
where
then
are you going to move?
We don't know yet, because that plan is now gone. But then we got an offer a couple weeks ago, and we started slinging numbers around, and then we started backtracking, like, I don't think we want to move, and they wanted us out quickly, and so we kind of back and forth, and we started.
The neighbors wanted you out quickly?
No,
the people that bought
the people bought the house.
Okay.
So anyway, we kind of started making some necessary. We started making some adjustments on our side of the offer to hopefully get them to say we don't want to buy the house and back out.
And they said
we'll take
do it.
Okay, we're fine.
Wow.
And so we're like, oh, okay, so I guess we'll move. And we thought we had some options, and those are not playing out right now. So we may be moving into one of our rentals for a little while.
I heard about that.
And see what happens. Claire's thrilled about that, and the kids are too.
Talk to Randy
my
and Bo
kids are too.
Wilson Realty.
And my
hook
kids
you
are
up.
too, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, we're got some things to deal with over the next couple of weeks, and And then we don't have anything going on now. I mean, this is terrible for the youth season. It's easy right now. I just got your senior graduation days and dinners and youth parties and
appreciation dinner.
Appreciation dinners next week. So we got all kinds of fun
He'd
stuff.
throw him a hot dog and say, I got him busy.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of the update for Steve and Bryan for this week. And again, mentioning out the Colburn family. So praying for you guys. We'll be back, have some more discussions here on Lunch with Bryan and Steve right after this.
Stop treating your home like a storage bin. Make room for living with Wilson Storage. No matter the need or budget, Wilson Storage has the solution for you. They have gated standard units and climate control units. They have security cameras, alarms on every door, and 24-hour access. You can even rent or pay your bill online. Just go to wilsonstorage.com or call 256-845-1530. Wilson Storage is family owned and been serving our community since 1988. Wilson Storage in Fort Payne.
This is Paul Crawford from The Locals, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB.
When you need to give something special, visit Tracy's in North Fort Payne. Beautiful floral arrangements, fresh or silk, stylish jewelry, scented candles and pampering products, cuddly stuffed animals, balloons, and candy. Tracy can help you put together the perfect gift and gourmet basket. Potted plants or hanging baskets with fresh spring flowers. At Tracy's, you're sure to find that unique gift that shows just how much you care. Tracy's is located at 2103 Galt Avenue in North Fort Payne. Open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5 and Saturdays from 9 to noon. For every occasion, visit Tracy's full-service florist, personalized printing, and gifts.
I know it. All right, we're back. We talked about it. Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Bryan Northcutt, Steve Chambers in studio, episode 8. We're glad to have you with us. We'll have Marshal Henderson on next segment with Lunch with Bryan and Steve. We were talking about, we just doubled our live views right now.
Yeah.
From the last couple of weeks. Had 3 live views. Now we got 6.
6
And I don't have mine on
people.
my computer, so one of them's not me.
I think we have.
It's not me either.
Hey, if y'all will, post on there. Can you see
Who you are? Let's see.
Yeah, comment on there who
Oh my
you
gosh,
are.
I'm
'cause-
so afraid to touch anything.
Oh, I know it. That's true. But I can't do it on your phone.
Oh, well, if I get on
Maybe
there
so.
through and then I'll be number 7.
If we have like 100 or 200 views in the evening before and then the next morning, I think maybe we should have late night
with Bryan. That ain't gonna happen because my bedtime is restricted to that.
Well,
So
it'd have to be before 9:30.
that's late night.
Yeah,
and it's probably late night for
it's
our
like the Beverly Hillbillies.
I know
Stay
it.
up 8-9 o'clock.
I am getting more people that are saying, "Hey, we're listening. I'm checking you guys out." So we're thankful for listeners and obviously
Get the word out, too.
Get the word out. Let everybody know about Lunch with Bryan and Steve. We're hopeful that this is. There we go. That was,
Sorry. Like turn
You're
my
listening to
volume
us live,
down.
too.
Yeah, that'd be very bad.
So thankful for all you listeners, and hopefully that you're getting some entertainment value out of this and getting to know people in the community. So Steve just hammered me over the break, said, let me talk about Alabama. Let's talk about Alabama, University of Alabama, a roll tide. So hit it, Steve.
Boy, I'm tearing up. That was so beautiful.
I can't believe that came out of your
I
mouth.
know, it's just for fun.
Yeah.
Anything
God
for the
bless
show.
him. Yeah.
If it'll get viewers, I'll say it every single day.
Well, God has really delivered you,
That's
hasn't
right.
he?
Yeah, it's a peace. It's peace and pace. Peace and
Go ahead,
pace.
Steve. Sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well,
Sorry.
you know,
Sorry.
when Jim Russell was having a little medical issue at the church and a couple of Easters ago,
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
I was helping him down the elevator, and I said, Jim, I said, if it make you feel better, I'd say War Eagle. And Jim went, let's hear it.
So y'all had a big banquet, which is where we got the liner. Play that. Can you get that liner up, Holly, real quick? This is where you got the liner from.
Whoa, it's still playing.
the liner's
sorry.
from the Boy
I
Scout
know.
banquet, but we
Oh, it was
had
the Boy Scout banquet. Never mind. Okay, I thought.
Alabama alumni banquet.
let's play
Okay,
that
this
liner
one
real
right
quick,
here. Let's see.
where we raise money for the
Whoops.
scholarship.
No.
Hey, it's Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB Radio. Roll Tide.
Yep. So Steve was able to get us at the Boy Scout banquet. I was thinking it was the different one, but this is where you had the official. That's where you got that liner from Chris Stewart from the Alabama Radio Network.
Now you'll be glad to know we had some Auburn people there. We had
Really?
Mike Shirey
Why?
because he knows Eddie Conyers.
That's
our
right.
Speaker
We got to get Mike Shirey on the show.
Yeah, he'd be great.
It would be really good. I'm gonna make a note of that.
When I introduced him as SEC official and a great career at Fort Payne Wildcats. And Patty and Johnny Culver were there.
Okay.
And so we welcome Auburn,
Okay,
our Auburn
well.
friends. But
We're an Auburn affiliate. WZOB is.
I know, that's why I never listened to it growing up.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
But
he listens now. He'll listen now.
I'll listen now.
Yeah, because we're a Wildcat affiliate too.
Yeah, well, yeah,
we are the.
We need to
It's-
talk about that too.
It's even
before
on
we-
one of my preset buttons. I said 100.9. Oh, that's
WZOB.
where I work, sometimes. Or where I sit and run
That's
my
them
routes.
people that pay me.
Eddie Conyers, he turned 97 April the 9th.
Wow.
And 2 months ago, he broke his hip. And so I thought, well, of course, I hated
yeah.
it for him, but I thought, now we got to find another speaker.
Well, broken hip in the 90s is that's almost a death
Yeah.
sentence a lot of times.
But on a
It
TV
is.
station, WUOA or VOA, I'm not sure, in Tuscaloosa,
Yeah.
some people from the university sent me a clip, and they were interviewing him and doing his rehab. He said, I got to speak in Fort Payne on the 22nd. So that's what's inspired me.
That's crazy.
And he said he loved Fort Payne because he and his wife had visited the Soda State Park and the canyon and all around here. And he says the best tomatoes he ever had was up on Sand Mountain.
Really?
Yeah, so anyway, he's just a good country guy.
That's funny.
He's been married 76 years.
76.
He said the
Golly.
secret to a good marriage is they go out twice a week. She goes out on Tuesday, he goes out on Thursday. Yeah, he had a lot of
So he was
stories.
still sharp, huh?
Oh,
Mentally.
he's sharp. But we had got one of those big, nice chairs in the church and put up on the stage in the
And
CLC.
he stood up, didn't he?
And so we helped him up the steps, and he got behind the podium. He said, I'm not sitting down. I said, are you sure? I said, I could just see him falling, But he went 30 solid minutes just
That's funny.
cracking jokes. And
So is he part of a speakers bureau, or do you just contact him
He
directly?
just-
How did y'all get a hold of Mike? Get you in touch with him?
you technically contact through the university.
Okay.
But if you know people that know him,
You can go through.
because he doesn't branch out that far anymore.
Sure,
But he's
sure.
only like he likes
I'll drive 3 hours to speak at 97 years old. But
he
not-
liked Fort Payne, and he came up, and he's very entertaining, and he's a good. He started out officiating Alabama football practices under Coach Bryan, and they.
I bet he's got some stories. Did he tell a bunch of those
He
stories?
told a lot of stories. He said when Coach Bryant hired him, he didn't have any idea what he was saying. And then he said, okay, yes, Coach, yes, sir, yes, sir. But he said he had a job. He couldn't just take off his job and go officiate. And then they said, that's your Coach Bryant said, well, that's your problem. You got to come here because they lost the official that they usually had.
Yeah.
Because Coach Bryant's philosophy, we want to make penalties during practice, not during the game.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was working, and so they told Eddie Conyers, they said, now we can't do but $15. Of course, this is 1962.
Yeah.
And Eddie thought that meant he had to pay $15. I said, Coach, I don't know if I can come up with that. And they said, no, we'll pay you $15. So he said he was hooked, and he went on through through Coach Saban.
Did he
And
really?
he talked about
Not all the way he just till
yeah, he was on the field until he got knocked out one time, and he said he woke.
Somebody run over him?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So then he was in charge of having officials after that at the game, but he was on the sideline, and he said he got knocked out, and he said he kind of woke up and he saw Coach Saban looking at him, and then he talked to Jeff Allen, the trainer, and said, "Is he dead?" And Jeff Allen said, "No, he's alive." So, well, let's get his ass off the field then. Let's start practicing. And he was just dying laughing. I don't know if you can say ass on
Hey,
the
you just
Well, you just did
There
twice,
you
so I
go.
guess so.
I was quoting
It's
Coach
in the
Saban.
Bible.
It's a
It's
code.
in
Yeah,
the
that's not. It's
Bible.
really not a cuss
It's
word.
the book of Saban.
That's right.
So,
So did y'all make some money? Was that a fundraiser banquet? Is that what y'all
well,
did that for?
really, our biggest fundraiser is the Alabama Auburn Golf
Yeah, I
Shootout.
played in that before.
If we can break even on this, we're good.
Okay.
So, and usually we have the students that are coming to the University of Alabama. They'll be freshmen,
Mhm.
well, it's their seniors in high school or transfers, and we have them there and their parents.
Yeah.
And so we pay for the students' tickets, but the parents come in. Yeah. But we're late this year getting all the information, so we weren't able to have that. We still had around 80 people.
Okay.
But usually, it's in the low hundreds. So,
Yeah.
But we were happy with that. And Jim Bunch, who I was ready to introduce, and number 63 in your program, number 1 in your heart, he wasn't there. And then I saw him at Foodland the next day. He said, "When is that banquet anyway?" Well, it's in 364 days.
You got time to stick that on your
That's
calendar.
right.
He was confused because his wife Leslie's on our scholarship committee that's
Yeah.
meeting today at 1:30.
Ooh, you better get out of here
I mean,
fast,
we'll have to cut a promo quick after this show.
Come say Mark, thank you. And so Leslie's meeting is at 1:30 today, so I think he had that confused.
Ah, yeah.
He may have been in one too many bowl games. I don't know. He still looks good. He's still sharp.
Well, Holly, we got so tomorrow night.
Yep.
We got a big game.
We
got
sure
big,
do.
Well, series.
Round 2.
Round 2 of the playoffs,
Yeah.
as I mentioned in the top of the.
So we got 2 on Friday.
Yep.
2 on Friday,
on
and
Friday.
if necessary, 1 on Saturday.
That's
so
correct.
Fort Payne taking on Gardendale.
Yep.
Tomorrow night, we'll have Coach Varnador. I think, assuming that everything works out, we're going to have him call in on the show at the top of the 12 o'clock hour and kind of give us his take on the game or the games in the series. And so that's a big deal. I would expect.
It's huge. It's
That,
unexpected after that 7-game losing streak,
Yeah.
in the middle of the season. But,
Well,
the bats are working when
if
they
you
need
told us
to.
at halftime of the Southside game that Fort Payne wasn't going to lose again until a heartbreaker
Right.
deep
Yeah.
in the playoffs to Oxford, I said, okay, I'll take that.
What is that about Fort
That
Payne
is,
this year?
it's interesting. It's
lot
definitely
of the
something to
same
it.
athletes.
Talked to some of my athletes at church last night. I've got so track sectionals are this weekend. Soccer playoffs start tomorrow night. We're getting to that round now. Everybody's into the playoffs and into the sports stuff.
How's our soccer team doing?
The ladies are
The girls are in the playoffs. I don't
and
think the boys
hosting.
are.
The boys got knocked out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be exciting. Get some Fort Payne action, but definitely. I went and watched the first game, a little bit of the second game last weekend.
Were you there during all the excitement?
Yeah,
Not at
I
the-
heard Muscle Shoals didn't play well with others.
They did not play well with others.
And it spilled into the fandom.
Yeah, we had to turn down the audience mic.
The audience mic,
Yes,
did
we did.
Oh, I bet Hank was loving that. Hank, get him if you ain't scared.
we were definitely wanting all the police officers to stick around.
Wow, really? At the end of that second
Gosh,
game?
Crazy. Well, it was probably in the middle of the second game.
We had some
Sometimes-
mom on mom action. Didn't we? I mean, fighting.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
You know.
Oh, you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve. I know we're not going to break. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
kind of letting everybody know what they're listening to.
Oh, okay.
So WZOB Radio, we're glad that you guys are with us. So we just kind of chit-chatting about everything. So my health update, I got 188. I started at 208 on my weight back
20
in
pounds.
January.
Is that right?
Yep, and I hit 188 this morning. And
Good
so
job.
gotten-
You look good.
I've gotten away from the cold showers and I'm going to cold plunges now.
Every time I hop in the shower, don't take this the wrong way, but I think about Bryan and his cold showers.
Do I need to leave?
I know. Well, I'm just thinking, no way, there's no way. Crank
Yeah.
that heat up and enjoy my shower.
So I've been listening the last 2 weeks. This guy that I listened to I told you about Dana White, who runs the UFC. He's also helped Steve Harvey. There's a podcast with him and Steve Harvey and Stephen A. Smith from ESPN. And they're all the same, similar boat, but their health was much worse. And just talking through that cold plunge. And so the numbers, so I wasn't getting cold enough in the shower. It's supposed to be. I measured. I got one of those pool
If
thermometers.
it's under 90, I got to change.
Sorry.
I got one of those pool thermometers, and it was measuring, like 70 degrees.
And what
it's
are you supposed to be
You're
at?
supposed to be from 50 to 58 degrees.
Nope.
So I started getting these ice trays and putting them in the tub, and getting it. I can get it to 58, and that's okay. I can handle that. But I've gotten used to it now, and it's still not easy. But man,
It's
the
bearable.
rush. I'm talking about when you come out and when you start your day after a cold plunge. it is
It energizes you?
unbelievable the amount of energy that it gives you, and it gets you pepped and ready to rock. I mean, as soon as you
So
hop
it
out.
replaces your coffee.
Yeah, it can take it's.
I
So
go
much
turn on
less
the fireplace.
enjoyable.
And I'll get home from
Yeah.
bus route, and I'll be downstairs, and I'll hear, oh, oh, oh.
Is that
And
Claire?
Claire will try to get into the leftover that's kind of warmed up some, and she'll be. I can hear her. All right, well,
Not
that's kind of a
laughing at you,
catch up,
Claire.
just catching up on all things Fort
Oh, my
Payne,
goodness.
Alabama, DeKalb County, everything else. We're going to have Marshall come in here in just a minute.
Yeah.
Marshall Henderson from First Baptist Fort Payne. Go ahead.
This is the last thing I say about the the bathroom renovation. They had, since the shower was facing the opposite direction when
Uh-huh.
it usually did, they had the pipes were on when cold was supposed to be hot.
yeah,
hot,
so it
cold.
mixed up, yeah.
So
That's
Martha
fine.
came in and said, "We don't have any hot water. It's just a cold shower." I said, "What did Bryan inspire you?" And she laughed. She said, "Well, I'm not ready to try that just yet."
Yeah.
It was
All
just
right. We'll be back
sweet.
with more with Lunch with Bryan and Steve right after this with Marshall Henderson.
DeKalb Fix-It Appliance Warehouse is a mouthful, so Terry and Bobby have decided to drop the fix-it and focus on giving you the best prices on new appliances. Whirlpool, KitchenAid, Maytag, Amana, LG, Samsung, GE, and more. Up to 75% off retail price on new scratched and dent appliances. And as your Electrolux and Frigidaire dealer, DeKalb Appliance Warehouse is passing on more savings to you with even more new in-box selections. Need a refrigerator? Come in today and shop our overstocked warehouse. You will not get a better deal anywhere. We guarantee to match or beat any price. In-house service available to all as well. Used appliances will now be available at our previous location on Godfrey Avenue, along with the same computer sales and repairs our customers have come to enjoy. DeKalb Appliance Warehouse is open weekdays 9 to 5, Wednesdays and Saturdays 9 to 2, located on Airport Road in Fort Payne.
This is Robbie Coker with McNeese State Basketball, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB. Go Pokes.
Stop treating your home like a storage bin. Make room for living with Wilson Storage. No matter the need or budget, Wilson Storage has the solution for you. They have gated standard units and climate control units. They have security cameras, alarms on every door, and 24-hour access. You can even rent or pay your bill online. Just go to wilsonstorage.com or call 256-845-1530. Wilson Storage is family owned and been serving our community since 1988. Wilson Storage in Fort Payne.
It is 11:31 local time. You're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve. I like that bed music.
You like that? I like
That's-
that too.
that's pretty fancy.
It's very
Paul
70s.
Crawford. Paul Crawford on
Or
the
Crawford, whichever.
Mr. Crawford. How about that?
You're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve. We've got in studio Marshall Henderson, the First Baptist Church Fort Payne pastor. Welcome in, Marshall. Good to have you with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me in.
Have you watched any of the shows?
I
You
think I've
glanced at-
seen it. Although, radio is a thing that, my kids have trouble wrapping their minds around that. So I've seen a little bit online. I was trying to tell them what I was doing today. They're like, so the radio? Like, yeah. Like, can we listen to it later? No, it comes on at a certain time. They're of that, Netflix generation where
Yeah.
everything streams and everything's on demand. So,
Podcasts.
Well, does
we are
do you
live
know?
stream. You
We
can-
are. They can.
okay, well, good. Okay, didn't know that. I'm learning lots of things.
Yes, we're on
in the-
Facebook live stream
Well, this
right
is
now.
and this
we
is
get
our
most viewers
first.
at like 1 in the morning. People get upset
Oh,
or
really?
something, and they look at it on Facebook.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you can
Well,
go back to show.
I'll take them back. And
Say
let
I'm
'em see it.
famous. Look at this, kids. I'm famous.
Right.
I'm on TV.
Infamous.
Dad's on TV. So several years ago, I don't know where I was. I was at a sporting event. I think it was a soccer fields or something, and I hear the word that Marshall Henderson is going to be at First Baptist Church as the youth pastor. Now, context. Let me give you some context, and he knows where I'm going to go with this. back in 2010-ish, 11, 12. It was when
somewhere-
Coker. It was
somewhere in
when
that range,
It was
yeah,
when
yeah.
Robbie Coker was at Ole Miss. Y'all remember him talking about being at Ole Miss? Well, Ole Miss had a basketball player named Marshall Henderson. And so for those of you who are familiar with Chad Baker Mazzaro, okay, everybody who plays against him cannot stand his demeanor. Well, Marshall Henderson
I can vouch for that.
was Chad Baker Mazzaro on like steroids. Like throw gasoline on Chad Baker Mazzaro and you got Marshall Henderson. Like insightful, like just inciting the opposing crowd. If he went into a hostile environment, he would eat it up. He'd hit a game-winning shot and go stand on the press table and taunt the fans. Did that at Auburn one time.
Wow.
And so I thought, first off, because it's from Mississippi, so Marshall's from Mississippi. Marshall Henderson played at Ole Miss. I'm going, first off, I'm pretty sure that wasn't a Christian that I was watching on TV playing basketball.
Well, you never know when Christians get involved in sports circles.
It could have been, yes. Reference the weekend
Friday night baseball.
Friday night baseball games. But then I thought, so he's a Christian and now he's in Fort Payne as a youth pastor. So I met Marshall, and you had a funny story to go along. So Marshall Henderson was a famous basketball player at the time for Ole Miss, and then Marshall Henderson moves to Fort Payne, and he's now the youth pastor at First Baptist Church. So tell me that story. Tell us that story again that you had said when you were in the hospital.
That's right. Yeah. So it was about that same time. My wife and I were having our second child, and so we had to go in the hospital late one night. Thinking it's go time for the child. And so the way everything's set up is she's laying in the bed, and I'm sitting over on the sofa, and the nurse is tending to her, but her back is to me, facing my wife. And so she's going through the list of questions she needed to ask. And one question was, what's the father's name? Now, this is March, so they're having SEC tournament and things like that, March Madness. And so that's the father's name. And my wife says, Marshall Henderson. And the nurse she kind of pauses, and she looks over her shoulder a little bit at me and back to my wife. Then over her shoulder again, and back to my wife, and finally at the third glance, I just say to her, "It's a different Marshall Henderson, a different one altogether." Subsequently, I've been tagged on Facebook. When the other Marshall Henderson does things.
Is he still around?
I don't know what he's doing.
8 to 10.
Coach Coker told me something recently, but I don't remember what it is. But we still get mixed up.
When he first met you, did he do the same?
Yeah, I think I gave him the same story too. He said Marshall Henderson, huh? I was like, yeah, I know.
You look different on TV.
Yeah.
Grew a beard, got a family, 9 kids. That doesn't seem like the same Marshall Henderson.
Yeah.
So tell us.
Vibe.
Yeah. So you came to Fort Payne. For those that don't know, before you were the pastor, or the pastor at First Baptist Fort Payne, you were the youth pastor who came with Nathan Van Horn when he came up here, being from Mississippi and all that. So tell us how the journey from you were born in Mississippi. Did you grow up in Mississippi?
Yeah, grew up there.
Okay, tell us that story.
I lived there until we both were married and graduated college, and then after that we lived about 5 years in New Orleans total before coming here. And so Nathan Van Horn, who was the pastor, is a friend of ours, a college friend, met through a summer camp ministry, and then just life continued on together. So we were in New Orleans, working with a church that was a little bit newer there. It was a church plant from around 2008 or so. So working with that, and that had been going on several years by that time. And so Nathan Van Horn got called as the pastor here. He called me one day and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And then I thought, well, what is Fort Payne? That was like, what is that? So
it's a military base. That's what I always get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it a military base or?
Well, it was at one time.
Yeah.
So I actually had a little bit of familiarity with the area, but how things go. And there's been a lot to me. So you do the things that you would expect to do as a believer. You pray about that. It's a big change moving from uptown New Orleans to Fort Payne, Alabama. So you pray through that. You seek the Lord's will in that. The church also does the same sort of thing on their end. It's not just a question on my end. But for me, the big deal was I call him Van Horn. When he was here, it was important to me to work with a pastor that I loved and trusted already. I mean, that's not, those two things aren't always hand in hand when you meet people in ministry, but having someone I could trust, I was going to work with and work under, was an important thing to me, and that really is what got us here.
Yeah. And then, so I remember going through, I didn't really go through the process with you, but I think our kids were playing on the soccer team at the same time when Nathan had left to go to Meridian, I think, wasn't it? Meridian, Mississippi's where he
went
started?
to Meridian from here.
And then, so we would have conversations at the soccer field, and I'm like, all right. And so what's going on? And he said, well, they're considering me. We're having conversations, talking about it. And so how was that process? You had always, I assumed, wanted to be a senior pastor at one point, or was that something you were just kind of leaving in the Lord's hands, or what?
I think it had always been open. When I went to seminary, it seemed like I went to seminary with some people who were crystal clear on, this is not only what I want to do with my life broadly, but just crystal clear on, this is the role that I want to play. For me, a little more open ended. Our work in New Orleans was different than what it was as a student minister here. It's a little bit broader. There's just some different kinds of opportunities with a startup church as opposed to something more established. So that really it was open in a lot of ways. I think whenever Nathan Van Horn left, the point of clarity that I had in that process was that at this point I really loved this local church. I believed over the years that for whatever my part was, that we were still at the foothills of what was to come, and that's just really the feeling that I had during that transition time.
Yeah. Now
the church did what the experts told them not to do on a couple different
hire within.
Yeah, they said basically if you hire an interim pastor, don't do it from your staff. Which they did. And then they said, and when you hire your new pastor, don't consider your interim pastor in the search. But, and I think all those things could be potentially divisive if they go, if they break the wrong way. And that's kind of the wisdom that they gave. Fortunately, it worked out this way.
So here we are.
No hard feelings there. So,
how long have you been how long have you been here, and how long have you been the senior pastor?
Total since September of 2015, so right at 10 years.
Okay.
So I'm kind of rounding first base of becoming a fort painter. I once had a church member said, "Well, I've lived here 45 years, and I just now feel like I belong." And I'm like, so I feel like I'm rounding first base.
There you go.
Into becoming a fort paintite, however you say that. And then, oddly enough, became the lead pastor, senior pastor, whatever you call it, in January of 2020.
There you go.
So that was perfect timing.
That was awesome.
It was so
Nothing
great.
going on
Guess
there.
what's coming up?
The best 60 days full of vision for the
Yeah,
future
right
of my
before-
life. Yeah.
Wow, I bet that was, God, that's a head turner there. Just, wow, what are we going to do?
It was disorienting.
I bet. Yeah, but it was for everybody, even people who'd been there for years.
That's right. And I guess I hate to stack up, me not knowing what I'm doing in that role against everything everybody else went through. But it was interesting.
You all right, Holly?
Yeah.
You turn off that phone. Sorry, that's Uncle Leo from Seinfeld.
Yikes.
All right, so you
She ordered pizza. They're at the door out there.
lunch with Bryan and Steve. You never know.
Sorry, we forgot to mute the phone. Yeah.
All right,
So,
go ahead.
please don't call the station.
A couple.
We're about to enter the COVID.
All right, there it is. Yeah, right.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Do you remember where you were?
I had this.
He's a pastor. He's used to all this.
There was this morbid encouragement that came along, a few months in, because again, it felt very disoriented. Not only first time filling that role solely as the lead pastor, but also, and then you layer on top of that a pandemic, and even just what I knew of church and what all of us knew of church or society or anything, turned upside down. And just went through some time thinking, I don't know, every day we're dealing with new information, and just kind of a lot of days where I said I don't know what we're doing here. I'll tell the church that years later I didn't know what I was doing, but there were times where we had these meetups or Zoom calls with other pastors in the area who've been doing it 30 years, so they knew what they were doing, and I would get on these calls with them and would talk to them, and then I would get off, and I would be oddly encouraged because I would say, they don't know what they're doing either.
I was about to say,
We're all
nobody.
out of our depth here.
It
you
really
know?
was. It was a really confusing time. Okay, so we'll come back, speak more with Marshal Henderson. You're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve. We'll be right back.
With summer just around the corner, it's time to schedule your pool opening with Rawson Pools. With 30 years of experience installing, repairing, and maintaining pools, Rawson Pools is your best choice to keep that backyard getaway the envy of the neighborhood. And for all you who enjoy servicing your own pool, Rawson Pool has a supply store stocked with the highest quality products and materials to keep your pool ready for those hot summer days. Rawson Pool and Supply Store is located in Rainsville on Main Street, Coke Restaurant. Rawson Pool and Supply Store, the pool professionals.
Do you need to declutter? Wish you could free up some valuable space at work or home? Helium Mini Storage has climate control units available, and all their units are gated for maximum protection. You can also store your stuff at home with their Four Seasons or Max Steel storage buildings for sale. Just come by Helium Mini Storage on Galt Avenue in North Fort Payne. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And while you're there, be sure to check out play sets for the kids. Store your stuff with Helium Mini Storage.
Hey, it's Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB Radio. Roll Tide.
We are back. Lunch with Bryan and Steve, episode 8, speaking with Marshal Henderson, pastor at First Baptist Church, Fort Payne. Just a quick shout out to one of our title sponsors, DeKalb Sportsman and Pawn. Go visit Brian Jones on the north end of town, that last shopping center on the left before you get to the North Y. DeKalb Sportsman and Pawn, we're thankful for them for being a sponsor of Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Grateful for you guys. Going to leave their logo up for just a few minutes. Steve, you had a couple questions.
So you graduated from Delta State.
That's right.
For some reason, I thought they were the Fighting Devils. Were they ever that?
No, there's a Mississippi Valley State University they're the Delta Devils, I believe, which is only about 30 miles from where I grew up.
In my research, which I actually do because I'm not very smart, they referred to Delta State as the Fighting Okras.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It's right.
And what is the logo?
Well, it's an okra with a face wearing boxing gloves. Yeah.
Well, that's very intimidating.
It is.
I hope
that for
Alabama
real?
never plays.
Really?
Yes.
An okra?
Yeah.
How did that? So I guess there's
I think
okra
it's
farmers
great.
there.
Yeah. Well, that area of the world is all. If you ever go to the Mississippi Delta, you drive off one final hill and it's just flat for an entire quadrant of Mississippi is just flat farmland. So lots of farming. I think I probably still in the books. The official mascot of Delta State University is the Statesman. Mm-hmm. So you had Statesman, the Lady Statesman, and sometime in history, and no one quite knows when, there was some chant that came from a student section. And
oh no!
and for whatever reason, I don't know why, but they were chanting OKRA, and it had some tie to something students were doing, maybe with the resident advisor, and that seems to be where it all started. There's students chanting OKRA, and it spells okra, and they just kind of ran with it. So it's kind of side by side. The official mascot and the Fighting Okra have been our mascots.
Okay.
Wow.
That's
odd.
I went
weird.
to Coach Bryant's last game in Memphis against Illinois, and Illinois go ILL I. I was like, we got to beat these people. So, I don't know why it just tore me up for some reason.
Well, what else you got there, Steve?
All right. I always ask our guests, do you get involved in local politics? It's enough. I bet it's political enough in your church.
We got some
Not
races
just your
coming up
church,
here.
but everybody
All right,
church.
yeah.
And who are you endorsing for?
That's Steve's favorite question. He likes to stir the pot.
I vote. So there, I vote.
I vote my conscience. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. From what I was reading about Cleveland, Mississippi, it's about 60 or 100 miles south of Memphis.
That's right.
It seemed like it's about the same size as Fort Payne. Or do you see any similarities? That we don't have the Mississippi River close to us.
No, I mean, towns of the same size they're similar in some ways. I think there's a nice slowness to Fort Payne that reminds me of where we grew up. And especially because, my wife and I, our trajectory was small town, New Orleans, back to a small town. And so coming back created some challenges, right? There's just not stuff here sometimes.
Convenience.
But it was also just very refreshing to start a new phase where you could, you can sit outside and you can take your time doing things. And I appreciate that. So some similarities, demographics are a little bit different here.
Than New Orleans, yeah, a little bit.
Than New Orleans, but also, also where I grew up too. Just highly agrarian there. So it's different here, but yeah, there's some commonality, and it's something I appreciate about it.
I love that senator from New Orleans. I mean, from Louisiana, John Kennedy.
John Kennedy. Yeah, he's entertaining.
Yeah, he acts like he'd be my uncle or something.
So, in terms of, I don't know if our listeners want to do this, but I do, and it's our show, so we can do whatever we want to.
Do whatever you
What's
want.
your philosophy?
Move the TV
from a ministry standpoint, what's that?
Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, they'll show us by their views, I guess. Yeah. I'm just curious from a ministry standpoint, kind of what's your philosophy? What is your model, or what do you think of kind of drives your ministry modeling at the church? Is that
Ooh.
That's a good question.
Overarching.
Did you prepare him for these?
No, I didn't. He said fire away, so I said,
that's pretty big. No, I would love to say that everything goes back to, I guess what I would say would be grace and wonder. I think sometimes pastoring in a southern situation, we're undoing a lot of what Christianity is not. And it's not bare moralism. I think some people view Christianity as that of making a trade. I'll be good in this life for some sort of ethereal afterlife. And so there's a lot of talk in our teaching and our preaching that would take us back to why the gospel really is good news. How God's grace meets us at our point of pain. How that is good news for us, how, to be good in this life and to get a kind of a spiritual afterlife, you really don't need, this is what I told our faith family on Easter, is that you don't really need a Savior who lived and died and rose again. You just really need a good spiritual notary for that kind of contract. But the gospel tells us that God's not done with this world, that he's not done with us, that he's coming to us as he came to us through Jesus Christ. He's bringing life and newness. And so a lot of what I do is just say, okay, we're gonna stay in the Word, which we believe. We go to God's Word, but also when we go back to God's Word, we're going to be refreshed by the grace of it. We're going to start with grace. We're going to let grace abound. We're going to let grace teach us. If we say there are some things that how we ought to act and how we ought not to act as Christians, right? So there's that. There's some morality to it, but we're going to let grace teach us the way toward that. We're going to let our behavior be gratitude in light of what God has done for us.
Gratitude. Talked about that earlier.
That's
Being
right.
grateful.
Yeah. And if I truly think that the story of Jesus is so compelling and so wonderful that if we can capture that, we will live responsively to that.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. As a church, I think we do a lot of things that are predictable. We gather as God's people to worship. We spend time opening the Word and discipling each other. We draw our strength and our direction from being with one another. These are just things that churches have done for forever. So there's not really any special sauce there. I would say I'm pretty low experience. We're not trying to create an experience for people week in and week out. I'm low on the attractional model, but I am very high on believing that if we commit ourselves to certain repeatable habits, like the gathering for worship, like communing with one another, that those habits do work their way into us slowly and over time, and they form us over time. Because it's really about formation rather than experience or anything like that. It's God changing us from the inside out, and that's a lengthy process, I believe. So
a lifetime.
It's a
It's a lifetime
lifetime process.
process.
And so I don't know if I really got to where
No,
what you were asking.
that's
there.
good.
Just some-
Yeah,
some-
I was listening to a podcast 2 days ago, and a pastor on there said he wants to make sure that his church knows, I'm not here to make you a better Christian. It's the reflection of the glory of God. It's gazing on Him and then letting Him do the transforming power versus you just learning the moralism of the day and trying to understand that in a better way. I noticed a couple of years ago we had gone to when I was at another church, a conference in Nashville put on by the Gettys. So for those of you who don't know, Keith and Kristen Getty run a conference once a year called Sing, which is trying to bring back some good theology and good biblical teaching inside of our song leading and music. And so notice that you guys had gone up there too.
Yeah,
so have y'all been back? We saw each other up there one year, and I think we went maybe 2 years. I can't remember.
I think we went twice.
Yeah.
It was a good experience for us, and it's what that conference does is really where our church is, and what you might call broadly the song of the church, know, or what is the song of the church. And so the Gettys and those that write with them, they are doing what you would call modern hymns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our church, probably like many churches, has to go through these questions of when people ask about worship, they're usually not asking about anything except
The music.
the style of the music,
That's
even,
right.
not even the substance of the music. And so we've had to answer those kind of questions because we do value as a church being a multi-generational church. We think it's beautiful that 8-week-olds and 80-year-olds are side by side in a congregation. We think that's something
I
to
agree with
strive
that.
for. And so we just had to figure out a way to move forward with that. And part of it is thinking about what modern hymnody offers. And we've kind of looked at it from a way of people throughout the centuries have written incredibly musically beautiful and compelling pieces. So if you think about the melody, those have been so compelling. And then people throughout history have written lyrics or poetry that are deep, that are beautiful, that elevate Christ and His work well, and also are structured in such a way where if you were to sing those words and internalize those words, it would be for your discipleship. That's another big thing we say. Like, we're not just singing so that we can experience something in the moment, but we know from singing songs that the songs you sing on a Sunday or the songs you sing in your car even are also the songs you sing to yourself on your hardest days or on your best days. They can humble you or in difficulty or just when you call forth a song. So why not have songs that have substance to them, which we need, and also just say, like, historically, music has been beautiful, so there might be something that was written 800 years ago that we're going to use, or it might be something that was written 8 months ago that we're going to use. Sometimes when I'm doing a new members class, I'll talk to them about our worship style, and I'll say part of our goal is for you to say, what's going on in here today? Because it might be that Handel's Messiah sits right next to something that Chris Tomlin wrote, a few weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And we just say we don't put everything on the table. And this is the song of the church. We find it beautiful. We find it compelling. All that's tied into your Getty question because I think the Gettys are trying to bring both those worlds together. Something compelling and musical and modern, but also something that is theologically deep, and then kind of reminds us of the hymns of the past, if indeed you grew up in that sort of setting.
Yeah, in our 11 o'clock service, if a hymn's less than 75 years old, we get a little antsy.
Sure. Sure.
You bunch of hippies.
I have, what's funny is because of being the youth pastor, I have to make appearances in both services, and so that contemporary service is the one that our family traditionally goes to. But I have really enjoyed getting reconnected with some of that old liturgy from old Methodism, Apostles' Creed. It's every week. It's the doxology. It's every week. And there is a component of that where some of the modern stuff came out of, like, that's old and dry, and nobody. And there's some truth to that. There's some people who are just standing there going blah 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 blah, and not letting it sink from head to heart.
Sure.
But trying to create that balance of, like, this is rich and deep doctrine. Let it settle on your soul. That should then provide a joyous expression that comes out of that. And so having to be able to, but heck, everybody, even in the Old Testament, it was when they started getting into rote, when it was just, and even into when Christ came and his ministry on the earth, that was all it was Pharisees were like, well, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way you're supposed to do it. And Jesus is like, no, that's not, you're missing the entire point. And so
that's a good word, because what even the scripture seems to do about things like that is that you'll find people misusing something, right? So, and when the scripture corrects a practice, it usually doesn't say don't do this practice anymore. It says to us, so the correction is not no longer using it; it's proper use of it. It's saying come back to the heart of it. And so you've got Paul in the New Testament correcting some use of spiritual gifts. It doesn't say stop doing them. He says let's return to right practice. And the same would be true for anything like the liturgy of the church, which I'm higher on than some people are in modern times. But I think the liturgy of the church is very important. That's the participation of the congregants, whether it be song or whether it be scripture reading, whether it be prayers or confessions of faith. And these are things that are not from my church tradition growing up. I was very low church tradition. We did the 3 songs and a sermon. Always ended with the invitation to be saved again this week. And so these are not things from my background, but I find them used properly incredibly formative.
Absolutely.
And there's this quote that said that the liturgy of the church becomes the language of our faith. And that second part is so important, because again, on my very best days and on my very worst days, I need to call back something of substance into my life.
That's right.
And so that may be a little bit of a tangent, but
no, we can
go.
This is where I am.
You're all over it.
I'm all over it.
Right.
If I just anyway, let's go.
We got to go to a break. We'll be right back with more with Marshal Henderson. You're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve.
So long. Cheers. Adios. Bye, Felicia. Don't let the door hit you.
More and more people are saying goodbye to pests with Safe Solutions Plus LLC. And it's no wonder with their top-notch customer service, quality products, and lower prices. And now with their new website, it's never been easier to manage your pest control service with Safe Solutions Plus. Just visit sspestandtermite.com to view your billing details, make payments online, and review past services. Family-owned and operated, Safe Solutions Plus is located at 934 Main Street West in Rainsville. Call 256-638-7378. Safe Solutions Plus, protecting homes and businesses one solution at a time.
Okay then. Bye.
My Supply is my hometown hardware store. At My Supply, I never have to wander aimlessly around the store looking for what I need. I know that when I walk through the door, I'm going to be greeted by a person and helped right away. So whether you're looking for plumbing, electrical, hand or power tools, welding supplies, standard or metric fasteners, or anything else to help with your home projects and repairs, shop My Supply on Godfrey Avenue in Northeast Fort Payne. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. My Supply, your hometown hardware store.
This is Chris Sturra, the voice of the Fort Payne Wildcats. You're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve. I'd love to join them, but some of us have real jobs to get to.
Stop treating your home like a storage bin. Make room for living with Wilson Storage. No matter the need or budget, Wilson Storage has the solution for you. They have gated standard units and climate control units. They have security cameras, alarms on every door, and 24-hour access. You can even rent or pay your bill online. Just go to wilsonstorage.com or call 256-845-1530. Wilson Storage is family owned and been serving our community since 1988. Wilson Storage in Fort Payne.
This is WZOB Fort Payne, 100.9 FM and 1250 AM.
For music, you'll never know what you're going to get. Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Bryan Northcutt, Steve Chambers in studio with Marshall Henderson. Talking theology now, but I want to break away from that for just a second. I don't know if you've seen, are you a Nate Bargatze fan?
I am.
Okay,
yeah.
so Holly sent me this and found it, and this is kind of the life I think that we all grew up in, or something similar to it. So you got it. You ready, Holly, for audio?
I sure hope so.
We'll give it a shot.
We'll
Let's-
see.
Y'all check this video
We'll
out.
see. Is it?
It's not coming over here.
Oh, man. Okay. What did I not do? Did you hook it up to your...
It's hooked up right here, I think.
Could lie to these people. This is the first I'm hearing that's an option.
That is great.
Oh, that's good. Nate Bargatze. So that reminds me, I've been listening to a podcast, and I asked Marshall, we'd spoken, this was a fairly popular podcast. God, how long's it been? Was it before COVID? It's been after COVID.
I think it was afterward, yeah.
Yeah, the rise and fall of Mars Hill. So it's a story about Mars Hill Church in Seattle, Washington. Mark Driscoll was the pastor, and got himself in a lot of trouble with a lot of things he did. And this podcast was speaking to those things and interviewing some of the congregants, but then it kind of branched off of that and went out to the larger movement of mega churches and big churches and the problems that can come with no accountability and things like that. So you said you had watched that thing as well, and what, as a pastor and trying to think of it, and I know it probably hits you versus, and me a little bit to a certain extent, versus a Holly who's sitting in a congregation trying to observe this. I'm sure it hit you on a different level. From the overall, so Mark Driscoll was pretty angry guy, did a lot of authoritarian type leadership, kind of lording, as Paul would say, lording it over you, that leadership style, and oppressive, and they even talk in terms now of spiritual abuse is kind of the language that some people use for that. How did that influence you in terms of like helping you model out how to think about ministry, or how did that affect you watching that podcast?
Well, it was clarifying, and to be fair, there was, I guess part of the feedback from something like that was Mark Driscoll was a national, if not an international, figure at the time.
Yeah,
and so when something goes wrong in a mega church like that, with thousands and thousands of people, that gets covered by television, and it gets turned into a podcast and is consumed by millions. And that does happen, and I think there's a particular danger in. I say danger. It's not a saying this can never happen, but there's a particular warning that's necessary for something like a megachurch, and someone who leads it. In this sense, once you're at that level, so. Okay, let's just say it. As a
come on now, let's get some views on this bad boy.
No. Well, I'm trying to.
We're trying to grow a show here, so come on.
Trying to be fair, but this is the particular.
We know what we're all talking about.
I think there's a particular danger when no one ever corrects you. I agree.
Or if your leadership board is other pastors of other churches similar to yours, and that's who oversees your ministry.
There's a lot of yeses, and so in our congregation, everybody can see me. I can see them. I do stand up weekly and say, I'm opening this book. This is the Word of God. I'm a messenger, and in some sense, speaking on behalf of the Lord, which is a powerful thing to be handled appropriately.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of our local church is that somebody can come up to me right after the service and disagree with me right to my face,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or correct me, or even just give me some unrelated way that they're disgruntled about things. That can be annoying, but it's also incredibly grounding.
Yeah.
Once you're in territory where, let's say you're at the as a pastor, you're at the tip of the spear on growing a church into thousands. Well, all of a sudden you're preaching. There's less access. That doesn't happen anymore. So you're just really speaking into a vacuum in a lot of ways. You're leading leaders. Okay, that's fine. Then you start going to conferences because you're the person that grew the church from 200 to 12,000. And at conferences, they're there. They've paid money to hear you speak, and to speak, in a sense, on behalf of God. There's just an inherent danger there because we're not made to be worshipped as human beings. And I think, to be fair to Driscoll, those that kind of follow in that line, that seems to be what happened. There's something that gets into your heart that then leads to all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
Now, there's tons of smaller churches that are not mega churches who have authoritarian pastors who are committing spiritual abuse. And so that's kind of one of those things with that. So that's kind of my first reflection, is that we're not really made to be worshiped that way. Some of the things that I think are maybe an annoyance in the local church at our size are actually things that are probably helping me in the long term, just to stay grounded. And I honestly do think that, I think visible assemblies of people is really what a local church should be anyway. But,
yeah. So if I'm and listening to it and watching and observing, and so I took over a youth group, and you kind of get this, everybody's kind of have this box of what they think what you've been handed should look like.
Sure.
And so oftentimes a big mega church or a bigger youth group or a bigger whatever will go to a conference and talk, well, here's how we did it. We did it this way. And so it's kind of becomes a cookie cutter mentality where if I'll just take this book and walk through this process, then I'll have a church of 12,000 people and I can go to conferences and speak.
Sure.
And to your point, I mean, when you look at the scriptures, when I look at the scriptures, and I've told our youth group this, I've told our church this, Jesus almost actively resisted. Well, he did any movement like that.
Yeah.
Like he would go, wait, there's too many people here. All right, let me say something so controversial that half of them leave.
Right.
Like, I don't think y'all are really understanding this, that it's not about bigger is better. And so just being kind of content, the phrase that I've heard recently is be where your feet are. Like, just, I'm planted here. I'm supposed to be in this context. God's going to bring who's God's going to bring. He's growing his church his way. I just need to be faithful to what I'm called to do in this moment. So.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some clarity there too. Probably none of us would resist if I want to tell our staff, if something happened and overnight, we grew by 1,000 people, I don't know if we'd all just sit there and say this is a bad thing, but we would have to ask ourselves some questions about ourselves, about what we're trying to do, really about what the ultimate goal of everything is. I think my reflection on a lot of what happened and revealed to that podcast, which is worth a listen for I think everybody. But
I agree. That's a good one.
It kind of displays the fact that what the kingdom of God did is this upside down sort of thing. So oftentimes, and even in our church, we can value things that Jesus really didn't value as much. And so in the calling of leaders, we place a high degree of value on giftedness because again, we don't want to fall behind. We want a gifted pastor or a gifted leader. We want gifted people in the right places, partly because we feel like we need to market ourselves and market them, or just because we want to not be bored when we hear a sermon. And I get that as well. I've heard boring sermons, and I don't want to hear that. But so we value giftedness, and what the podcast really exposes is when that giftedness so far exceeds character development, you're getting into a bad place. And so it's just one of those things where local churches, I would say, need to be patient it and say, if you have leadership and they're walking and developing the right kind of character, I would just say trust the faithfulness and the fruitfulness later on, apart from these kind of gifted things. And so we kind of elevate the wrong kind of thing there. And that's where, your giftedness will fail in moments where you need character. And I mean, that's just sort of the long view of like what I'm learning as a pastor as well, is like there's got to be something to draw from beyond like just the stuff that you're good at, or
absolutely.
not just discipling the things that you're good at and drawing from something else.
Yeah. All right, we're talking with Marshal Henderson here on Lunch with Bryan and Steve, WZOB. We'll be right back.
Stop treating your home like a storage bin. Make room for living with Wilson Storage. No matter the need or budget, Wilson Storage has the solution for you. They have gated standard units and climate control units. They have security cameras, alarms on every door, and 24-hour access. You can even rent or pay your bill online. Just go to wilsonstorage.com or call 256-845-1530. Wilson Storage is family owned and been serving our community since 1988. Wilson Storage in Fort Payne.
This is Paul Crawford from The Locals, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB.
When you need to give something special, visit Tracy's in North Fort Payne. Beautiful floral arrangements, fresh or silk, stylish jewelry, scented candles and pampering products, cuddly stuffed animals, balloons, and candy. Tracy can help you put together the perfect gift and gourmet basket. Potted plants or hanging baskets with fresh spring flowers. At Tracy's, you're sure to find that unique gift that shows just how much you care. Tracy's is located at 2103 Galt Avenue in North Fort Payne. Open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5 and Saturdays from 9 to noon. For every occasion, visit Tracy's full-service florist, personalized printing, and gifts.
That was the second half. There's actually crossroads here.
All right, Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Bryan Northcutt, Steve Chambers in studio with Marshal Henderson, the pastor at First Baptist Church of Fort Payne. We've been having some fun talking all kinds of stuff. Holly's just
my
been
favorite
she's geeking out.
She's
geeking out.
Well,
She's geeking
well,
out with this.
and Marshall's a good guest for me too, because otherwise I'd be like pulling my hair out. If it went another way, I'd be over don't say anything.
Is her mansion going to be larger than ours?
Yes, it is. She's
what?
Yes.
Holly, what?
Is your mansion going to be larger than ours in heaven?
No, and that's why I love Jesus. Okay? That's why.
All right,
Yeah.
Steve, you got a trivia question for Marshall. Let's go.
I do. My first one was one you probably had no chance to get. So, because I know you probably know studied the history of First Baptist Church. There used to be a minister named Dan Ireland in the 60s and 70s. He was, you may have gotten this, but we used to have this fundraiser, Spaghetti Supper, Methodist men, and we had a gentleman named Bill Brown that had this awesome spaghetti sauce. But then Dan Ireland would come over, and he would do his spaghetti sauce, and then it was really good too. So I was going to ask that, but you might have gotten that. But the Methodists and Baptists were saved over spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
But that used to be, I mean, they were lined up down Grand Avenue to come to the spaghetti supper back then in Cobble Hall. But that's before Bryan was born, so.
Yeah, I think he was the pastor there when I was born in that church. Yeah, I think so.
Barry Lord, wasn't he?
No,
he
Tommy,
was the
Jeff Pounds.
Pound.
Was it Pounds or Pound?
Jeff Pound.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Tommy was my age, and so he was there for a little while, and then I've got an interesting story to piggyback off of that. Go ahead.
This is back to your days in Cleveland, Mississippi. What place just outside of Cleveland, Mississippi? I don't know how far outside. The Chamber of Commerce says it's close. It's known as the birthplace of the blues.
Well, I'm going to say, you told me the answer, so, I mean.
He's the only one that says
there's a two-part answer to that. If you go around the Delta, you might find in Clarksdale, Mississippi, which is about 30 miles north of Cleveland, where I'm from, you might find them saying they're the birthplace of the blues. But actually, about 10 miles east is a little community called Dockery. And I don't know, other than a few houses, I'm not sure what's there. There's some farms. But that is the legendary place that was the birthplace of the blues. There's a story where Robert Johnson, famous blues singer, I don't know, early part of the 1900s, there was a crossroads, just a dirt road there, where he lived this poor, miserable life, and there at the crossroads he sold his soul to the devil for this incredible music ability and getting out of poverty and into fame. And much like every tale where someone sells their soul to the devil, it ended up terrible for him. I think maybe he was shot to death by the husband of a mistress or something like that. I'd have to go. Maybe everybody Google that. But it was something like that.
I don't recall that in my research. But
yeah. But that's where that you can actually go out there, and there's still two dirt roads that cross, and who knows if it's it's like any tour you go on. It's like this is the place where it happened.
Huh?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't mention earlier. Eric Varnador had a little thing come up at school, and he's not going to be able to join us, so that's why we don't have Eric Varnador online today. Sorry. He texted me that he got something dropped in his lap that he was not ready for.
Okay.
And
Well, it's game day,
it's not an injury.
No, it wasn't.
No, tomorrow's game day. Sorry, my bad.
No, it wasn't related to that. So, what was I going to do? Man, I got to start writing my notes down and thinking through all this
Please
stuff.
do.
So let's talk a little bit. You guys have got 4 biological children. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's right.
And you've got 5 other. Is that right?
6 adopted children.
6 adopted.
Yeah,
it keeps growing. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that story and how that came about and your journey through that.
Well, that's a long one.
Then you've got 8 minutes.
What's the segment? No,
We'll get started on it. We got another one if you want to hang around.
No, it's pretty interesting. For a long time, my wife knew that she wanted part of her life to be connected with orphan care, and actually, probably there's a moment when we were in college where, I'm praying through what my future is, even future in church ministry. She's praying through what her life will become, and there's a point where she thought she would probably just end up in Africa working at an orphanage. Like that was a strong feeling she had at the time. And so, as two people dating back then, we had to kind of figure out, how does that work? How does that work? It's a pretty long distance marriage. And so, it was kind of a moment we had to kind of work through all that. And so we got married, seminary, and then eventually came here. For a long time, we knew that there was something that we needed to be doing with our family in particular. So that's all that orphan care stuff was kind of tumbling around inside of her for a while. You know me, I'm a little slower on the uptake on that. So I just began reading. And there's a great book that I started with. It's by Russell Moore, and it's called Adopted for Life, where he walks through he and his wife adopting 2 children from the Ukraine, maybe, or Romania. I'm not sure at this time. And then just kind of tying it to theology from Scripture and how this all fits together. And that's just where I started. So kind of start with a book, which I do with most things, and worked our way forward from there. We've actually been certified as foster parents in 3 different states. We finished it in Louisiana, but right about that time, Jill Curry became pregnant with our first son. We've done it in Mississippi. Had a foster daughter for a brief time there. At a certain point, and then we started doing foster care here around 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. And it's been great. Like, so, by that time we'd kind of gone through having 4 biological sons, and then started the process all over again. Now that's led us to every child we've adopted, we've fostered first. So we work with the DeKalb DHR on all this. We're sort of an abnormal case. When you go through foster care training, which is like 30 hours, one of the last last dates on that training is you have this discussion panel, and one of the things that on the discussion panel is you bring in, someone like a judge or a lawyer, someone from a different, just different people that have experience. And so one group on that panel is always existing foster parents or past foster parents, and what they'll always tell you is when you foster, if you want to adopt, that's great. They actually welcome that, but they understand that, a lot of kids that come into your home, they'll go back home. I mean, reunification really is the first healthy reunification is the first and primary goal of foster care, to get them connected back in a safe and healthy home. And that's how the process is meant to be geared. And so someone says to you, if you want to adopt, this may not be for you, that kids are going to come in your house, they're going to go back home. And we just had the opposite experience, all but one child here in DeKalb that's coming to our home has just stayed, and those are terrible situations broadly, because there's a lot of pain involved in, like, we're always grateful. You're here in our house, you're home. We want you to be happy and healthy and safe and secure. But that also means there's something just terrible that happened on the other side of that child's life, being taken out of a home is an awful thing. It is a wound that's created on that day. And so, for us, we've just had children that have stayed for whatever their story is. And the logical conclusion of all that is, well, they're our family. We adopt them, and and they're children without distinction. You can pick out, these 3 are sibling groups and those 4 are sibling groups or whatnot. But it's been a really beautiful life. And for us, it was just dialing it back to saying, so you say, as a follower of Christ, maybe the broadest question is, well, what can I offer Christ with my life? Now, a lot of people have a lot of things to offer Christ with their lives, and we see them doing that in different ways. So whether it be resources or money, people do that. Whether it be a particular skill or an ability, we see people doing that. We just looked at our life at one point and said, we have a home. That's what we have. Why not that? And that's really, for us, how that started and where it is and where it's going.
It's hard to get away also in the scripture that it's a pretty clear command. Like, don't tell them to go be warm and well fed. You got a place to stay. You offer them your place to stay. And it's hard to kind of skirt that command. There's commands of Christ that you look in there and you go, that's a kind of an inconvenient one for a lot of American culture. But just going, hey, we got a place to stay. We ran into that some with homeless ministry that we had done for a while, and it's challenging. It is. Anytime you're doing stuff, Steve knows that.
They're not always completely honest with you.
Well, good. That's great. And you guys have inspired, I know, a lot of other families, not just in your church, but in the community. Y'all, I would argue, have made some pretty big strides in awareness of that need.
Sure.
Amongst the DeKalb DHR and kind of a little bit of a flagship for them to go, hey, if a guy and wife with 4 kids can do it, then
it seems like it'd be heartbreaking if you foster one and then they, after a year or so, they leave.
For sure,
it'd be very difficult.
Well, there's so anyone who's a parent, and again, we've only experienced this on a singular occasion here. You don't have an existing framework for a child becoming not your child. Right, so even with the foster care situation, knowing that this very well could be temporary, and likely is, but then you're months in, and you've parented this child, you've loved this child, you've done the mending of wounds that are required in that time frame, whatever it is, and then the child does go back home, and again, that is the major goal. Healthy reunification is the major goal of foster care. But there's a pain because you don't have a box to put that experience in. And it's different than a parent losing a child to death as a young child. Because I say that's another one of those categories where you don't have a box to put that in emotionally or anything. And I would say by analogy it would be like that for a foster child going back home. Is it what box do I put this in? How do I feel about this?
Are you allowed to contact them again or see them? Or is there like a protocol? If it may be best you don't see them? Or
there's some rules surrounding it, and I think again because parental rights are so strong, it's really in the camp of the parents. Now,
Yeah.
and the way you do foster care can determine largely how that goes in the future, because if the parents, the birth parents, see the whole process as largely adversarial, which, to be fair, like someone from the government coming in your house and taking your children out of your house, that creates an adversary.
Yeah.
And if you as a foster parent, because of whatever wrongs have been done or perceived to have been done, if you created an adversarial relationship with the family or the system, I mean, that takes a lot of things off the table down the road as well. I don't know if a lot of these things really tie up all that neatly. Like, there's not a whole lot of Hallmark, movies out of all this. But
Yeah.
I think just as long as we remember, like, we're responsible agents all along the way. So if we contribute to being adversarial, then it's going to be that.
Yeah.
Or we could do something different.
Yeah. Well, it has been good to have you with us, Marshall.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the time, and you can show your kids that, hey, Dad's famous. He's on TV.
Yeah.
So good to have you with us, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for being in
Thank
studio.
you.
We're going to come back with more Lunch with Bryan and Steve right after this on WZOB.
DeKalb Fix-It Appliance Warehouse is a mouthful, so Terry and Bobby have decided to drop the fix-it and focus on giving you the best prices on new appliances. Whirlpool, KitchenAid, Maytag, Amana, LG, Samsung, GE, and more. Up to 75% off retail price on new scratched and dent appliances. And as your Electrolux and Frigidaire dealer, DeKalb Appliance Warehouse is passing on more savings to you with even more new in-box selections. Need a refrigerator? Come in today and shop our overstocked warehouse. You will not get a better deal anywhere. We guarantee to match or beat any price. In-house service available to all as well. Used appliances will now be available at our previous location on Godfrey Avenue, along with the same computer sales and repairs our customers have come to enjoy. The Cab Appliance Warehouse is open weekdays 9 to 5, Wednesdays and Saturdays 9 to 2, located on Airport Road in Fort Payne.
This is Robbie Coker with McNeese State Basketball, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB. Go Pokes.
Stop treating your home like a storage bin. Make room for living with Wilson Storage. No matter the need or budget, Wilson Storage has the solution for you. They have gated standard units and climate control units. They have security cameras, alarms on every door, and 24-hour access. You can even rent or pay your bill online. Just go to wilsonstorage.com or call 256-845-1530. Wilson Storage is family owned and been serving our community since 1988. Wilson Storage in Fort Payne.
All right, we're back. Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Bryan Northcutt, Steve Chambers in studio for episode 8. We're grateful to DeKalb Sportsman and Pawn, north side of Fort Payne. Brian Jones, thank him for sponsoring Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Trying to get it in the shot there, Holly.
Yeah, I'm trying to do two things at one time. Shut that off.
Now, don't cuss on air.
No, it wasn't about cussing.
Okay.
It was, anyway.
So
we just
Steve did, but you can't.
Yeah, Steve did.
Now we're gonna have parents going, "Oh, yeah, I saw that show and what y'all are doing."
Uh-huh. No more. No more.
So thankful to DeKalb Sports and God, I said it again. Sportsman and Pawn for sponsoring Lunch with Bryan and Steve. And
I
we do
can
have a new
see that.
sponsor next week.
We do. I can see that, though, because you do the things outside, right? The sportsman.
Well, I always
It's
think
an
of sports and outdoors or sportsman and outdoors, not sportsman and pawn, because it just kind of rolls off that way. By the way, does everybody like? Do you like how it's turned out with the new? We moved the TV from
Sure, I
over
love it.
here to
Yeah,
over
it's
here,
great.
so it's closer to. Now we got the sign here, which still looks cool, and so kind of compact, so that the shot is a little easier to deal with.
Yeah,
It was so stressful for Holly.
Y'all got to know. Brian walks in the door at 10 o'clock and says, "I'm moving the TV." And I was like, okay.
I had meant to do it earlier in the week.
Totally fine for a little while, and
then we're
then
trying to work the chords.
and then the
trying to
cords,
hide
and
the
I'm
cords
watching
over here,
the clock,
and then she's trying to get
and then I'm
Facebook
like,
Live.
okay, now
when
you're
I
gonna
come
put
in
me.
at 10:30, I say, "Is she a Tasmanian devil?" Yep.
Yep.
2 weeks
Isn't
in a
that
row.
terrible? I hate that for you, Steve. I'm
No, it's
not
okay.
usually like that.
I'm
You can
pretty
ask my
bashful.
husband.
No,
She's very
I'm,
sweet.
I'm not.
she is sweet.
It's not like I
Everybody
hope.
talks about your sweet voice.
When I sing,
Have you ever seen her expressions?
that's why I'm in radio.
Got you. I was trying to think. It'd be nice to have like a little camera there that we could go to
Put
you.
me?
If we at some point we get a budget for this, we
well,
could do multi-camera.
I don't know if I want a camera on me because the camera adds 10 pounds, so I don't know if I want a camera.
You should
on
go
me.
to Gary Brecka. Start looking at it. It's
cold
real simple.
showers, Bryan.
Start
Cold showers.
Start with. You don't have to start with cold showers. You start with water, only water to drink, and no added sugars.
Well, okay, so
There you go.
I'm already there. Like, there's a lot of things that he says that I already do,
Yeah.
with the water. And I have been trying to turn my phone off 2 hours before bedtime. I told Jamie about it.
Yeah.
I said, okay, Jamie, 2 hours, pick
Well,
up
it's
a
actually
book.
eating 2 hours. It's phone 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay,
One
well,
more
I've been
hour
doing
to
the extra.
communicate.
So I'm trying to,
Yeah, 1 hour more hour to communicate.
That's right.
maybe.
Quality time. Talk to each other. Share life together. Be a blessing.
Yeah.
Spousal stuff.
Right.
So
I just read. I'm kidding. We do that 23 hours. That last hour I read.
But if
before
you
we go
start
to
with
bed.
just like simple. So here's what I did. This
Yeah.
is how I handle it. And you've lost what, 30 pounds? Isn't that what you
Well,
lost?
the last 10 months, I've lost 31 pounds, and that's the good news. But the bad news is I can still barely see my shoes, so I got a long way to go.
But it's barely now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, do they
Yeah.
match? Yeah,
So
okay.
what I did, the things that I did. First off, I don't know that you can actually do this unless you're motivated, extremely motivated, and having a real. There's got to be a desire more than just I want to lose weight. Like I want to. So for me, it was when I was having those AFib episodes, and when I'm having arthritis, and I'm starting to go to the doctor. I'm starting to have that traditional, and this is what Gary Brecka talks about, is the relentless fight against aging. So a lot of the things we'll just chalk up to, well, I'm getting old. That's a natural consequence of getting old, which is true in a certain sense. But at the same time, there are factors that you have control over that that you can take actionable steps on that will reduce either your risk for disease, cardiovascular disease, all these other types of diseases, or in some cases just completely eliminate the symptoms totally because you've cured the underlying problem. And so what I did was, I was having those health issues and I just wanted to feel better. I wanted my heart to stop fluttering. I wanted to be able to sleep through the night and not be waking up all the time. And I wanted to stop these aches and pains. And so as I started going down the trail, what kept me motivated was I would get up and I would watch and study my body. Like when I do this, what does my body do? And when I'm not taking in sugar and eating fruits, vegetables, whole meats, all that kind of stuff, do I feel better? And the answer was a resounding yes. I feel a lot better. And then I would get on the scales and I'd go, okay, I ate this meal, I gained. So when I was like not eating well, I'd eat a meal and I'd gain 5 pounds from one meal. And the next morning, like 2 of it would come off.
Mm-hmm.
When I started eating more healthy stuff, I have this I would eat healthier, bigger portions of food, but because my body was able to process the food that I was eating better, I would gain like 4 pounds at night and wake up the next morning and lost the entire 4 pounds through the night because my body metabolized it. My body was able to process.
So you don't eat after supper, I don't suppose.
No, no snacking. I'm trying to be done eating by 6 and 6:30 and in bed at 8:30 and try to get my. And,
have you ever had one of Martha's cinnamon rolls?
oh gosh,
They once went for $250 at a fundraiser.
a fundraiser.
Wow.
So
See,
I'll eat just a slice of it.
I walked into
That'll be it.
the bus. They've had bus driver appreciation week.
Oh, yes,
This
I
week.
thought
Have y'all
about
seen
you.
that?
Yeah.
There's
I almost
a place
posted
in
it.
heaven for you guys.
So I came into the bus garage yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and there was a box of donuts sitting there.
Did you partake or did you
And
not?
so I raised the lid.
Smelled it real good?
I looked and I thought, boy, and
might have
I
a-
was tempted. I was like, it would be. I mean, I've been very, very good. Just have one. I lowered the box. There was another box. I wanted to see if there was anything more tempting in that box. So I raised that lid, and it had only one donut in it. So I just lowered it and I walked out the door.
Pain's a good motivator.
It is.
I have a lady friend who started the carnivore diet.
Mm-hmm.
She and her husband, and that's helpful when you're doing it together. It's really not. It's hard to do it if your husband's not on board or your wife's not on board.
Yeah.
Anyway, and she said that her arthritis went away.
Mine has.
And then she said, okay, we're gonna treat ourselves, and we're going to have like just half of a Diet Coke. And so, so he, anyway, and then she's like, as soon as that arthritis started back, she started feeling it again. And okay, that's it, no more. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
That's a big indicator is
because of the sugar in the Diet Coke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
the sugar.
But it's, Splenda or whatever they put in.
Aspartame, poison.
Aspartame.
So one of the things that I've tried to do this year as part of my habit, and it goes into some of our spiritual stuff at church, is being more connected. So I'm trying to
the earth.
no,
with your grounding.
no, with people like really. There's some stuff that I've been doing spiritually that I've just kind of internally I resist relationships. I know that sounds weird, but like this doesn't bother me. But going and sitting down with my wife or my children and having an in-depth, deep, relational conversation is a challenge for me.
So you like the shallow kind of
I
stuff?
can talk like we're shooting the bull about okra, fighting okra, and
I know that's hysterical
and stuff like that. I'm good with that, but just
don't get deep with Bryan.
Yeah, to sit down and kind of unpack, and I can get deep on certain levels. You've seen that in ministry.
Yeah, because your
settings.
Claire is very deep.
Yeah, oh yeah, and
that's why he doesn't like it.
And so I'm trying to get more connected in relationships, and so what I have found is in doing that, one of the things, activities I do in the morning during my morning Bible time, is I've got a chart of feelings. And so part of getting connected with other people is getting connected with yourself. Like, what am I feeling and what's going on down inside of me that is, what is it that we used to do instead of like, how's your soul? That question, how's your soul? Yeah, you love that.
I love that.
But just trying to be connected with my own feelings. And so,
because they're good indicators.
Yes, it's just kind of where am I? What am I needing right now that I need to go to the Lord to get provision for? And so, here's so I'm saying that
a new house.
That's right, a new house right now. But
shelter.
It's amazing when I started like really diving into the health eating, cold plunges, working out, exercise, paying attention to things. My overwhelming feelings were positive. It is every morning I'm like, I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel
good.
Yeah, I think Piper. I've listened to Piper talk about this because he's kind of said the same thing about if he has a good night of sleep, then he's more patient in the morning. So does patience come by the Holy Spirit, or does it come by
that's a fair,
getting enough sleep? And I think it was like yes. Yes, because we are made to live in a body.
Yep.
God gave us and our bodies are good, and
they are temples, and if you care for the temple well, it will produce. I think that's the biggest testimony out of this is if you take care of the body that God has given you, and steward it well, and put in it the things that make it run well, then you're going to reap a benefit from that. And so that's kind of the one of the uses of the law. If we talk about the several
three
uses of the law, and one is it gives us good guidance for how to live life.
How to live life. Praise God that it's not condemning for us, right?
That's right.
Thank the Lord.
Did I tell you about going to the cardiologist? Me?
When?
I went to it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I've never had any kind of heart problem that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Except during an Alabama game. And but at my age, I thought I needed to have a cardiologist.
Absolutely.
So I went, and as Dr. Patel, no, he's not. He doesn't sponsor our show, but the cardiologist in Gadsden.
Okay.
And
but he can if you want to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I did a stress test, and it was okay. Everything went fine. And so he said, I want you to do one more thing. So I want you to get a CAT scan with dye.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. I said, can we do that in Fort Payne? He said, no, they do this at one of the hospitals in Gadsden.
Yeah.
And so I think that morning the Three Stooges were in charge at the hospital, because when I was registered, they were super nice, but I was registered and they said, okay, we're just going to go in and get a little biopsy. I said, of my heart? And then Martha comes running in. We're not getting a biopsy of the heart.
No, wrong tag.
They had me confused.
Oh, my goodness.
And so when I went to the scan, the technician was all frustrated. This isn't working. I'm not getting any contrast. But there was a hole in the tube, so that dye was going into the floor. I thought, Lord, if I can just get out here alive, I'll be happy.
Were you supposed to get contrast?
I was supposed
Okay,
to,
okay,
but
so to
they
say.
kept saying, "Okay, it's going to burn." I said, "I don't feel anything."
Because give that to the wrong person,
Then the third time it burned, and I thought we're good. And so when I get back on the follow up, he said, "You're the only 66-year-old man I know that's got no calcium in your heart." And I thought,
Wow.
is that good? I thought, hopefully I have calcium in my bones, but they didn't find.
Well,
He
good.
said no blockage, but on my rib and wing diet, I'm sure in the past, I'm sure there's blockage somewhere. But it's
Yeah,
not
so we can
enough
start
to
calling this Healthy
show
Lunch with
up.
Bryan and Steve.
Right.
Healthy
So
lunch.
now if I have a heart attack before 1 o'clock, I say, well, they didn't find something.
That's
So,
right. That's
anyway, I just felt like it was something I needed to do at my age.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's one other thing I got to
My
get done that
advanced
I'm not
age.
ready for right now at my age, but we'll talk about that some other time. All right, we're
Is it urological?
no, it's the other side. We'll be back with Bryan Lunch with Bryan and Steve right after this.
With summer just around the corner, it's time to schedule your pool opening with Rawson Pools. With 30 years of experience installing, repairing, and maintaining pools, Rawson Pools is your best choice to keep that backyard getaway the envy of the neighborhood. And for all you who enjoy servicing your own pool, Rawson Pool has a supply store stocked with the highest quality products and materials to keep your pool ready for those hot summer days. Rawson Pool and Supply Store is located in Rainsville on Main Street next to Toke Restaurant. Rawson Pool and Supply Store, the pool professionals.
Do you need to declutter? Wish you could free up some valuable space at work or home? Helium Mini Storage has climate control units available, and all their units are gated for maximum protection. You can also store your stuff at home with their Four Seasons or Max Steel storage buildings for sale. Just come by Helium Mini Storage on Galt Avenue in North Fort Payne. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And while you're there, be sure to check out play sets for the kids. Store your stuff with Helium Mini Storage.
Hey, it's Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve on WZOB Radio. Roll Tide.
All right, we're back. Lunch with Bryan and Steve. Last segment. Well, second to last segment, but the last segment was so short it doesn't really count. So, Steve, while I finish eating this bite of food,
I think your pizza's here. If you want to go
I need to chew this food some more. So, get us started with some quotes of the day. I need a rain gauge update, too.
Oh, I know you do. And that's why you're losing weight and more healthy, hearing about the meteorological side of things. Okay, my favorite, Winston Churchill. This isn't my favorite quote, but I love all his quotes. A lie gets around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on.
Yeah,
Winston Churchill.
Yep.
And the rain gauge total for April so far through today, April 24th, 6 inches exactly.
Through this morning. Because yesterday was, woo. Did y'all get a bunch here at your house?
It got 82/100ths of an inch, but then there were some other
rain out there?
stations around us got one and a half inches.
Yeah. We have a dog that's really old. He's like 16, and he can't control himself any longer. And so
And
he
he couldn't get out in the yard to do it.
no,
do his business?
I put him in the yard. I mean, we leave the house, and I'm sorry, Bo, but you going outside because I'm done. I'm done with cleaning up. Anyway, but yes, he was sopping wet. This week I have had to bathe him. To get anyway because he's a poor wet dog. Anyway. Yeah, lots of rain.
Yes, lots of rain.
Yeah.
Was it raining earlier? I thought I heard rain.
There's puddles out there, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Did y'all hear that?
Yeah,
when we were
Cindy
with
is
Marshall?
shaking her head yes.
Okay.
Is that what that was?
It's usually either the air conditioning running
Yeah.
or they sound very similar. Or rain hitting on the roof, and so I
Or
thought
a B-52 dropped another bomb accidentally.
Yes, that's true. So speaking of military, you got military history?
I
there?
got some military history.
Come on, bring it on. Let's go.
All right. This day in 2017, U.S. forces dropped the mother of all bombs, the most powerful conventional bomb in American possession, on caves holding members of the Islamic State in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. That's Moab, right? They call that Moab.
Yeah, that's correct. The
Mother of
explosive
all bombs.
The explosive was so large, it had to be dropped out of the back of a cargo plane. Oh, that's a good one.
Or shove it.
That must have been a Republican in the office. And in fact, President Donald Trump had given the decision-making power to the Pentagon, and this is in 2017.
Okay.
And this strike was on one of the first combat events resulting from the change in administration. So
interesting. He's getting after it.
I feel like every one of your day in history is about dropping a bomb.
Well,
They tend to be.
I get the like sometimes they're on the Civil War, and it depending on who had the better of it that day. I'll read that.
I just think you like talking
I
about
never
dropping
signed
bombs.
the surrender. So I hadn't given up yet.
All right, Holly has got something she wants to discuss.
No,
so
I mean,
Nico,
Nico, what
everybody's-
Lama Lamava?
lava lamp, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I just curious about you guys' thoughts about Nico and
I
the
think
whole
everybody. So if
debacle.
if you don't know what that's about, he had an NIL deal. There you go. It's easy for me to say.
Yeah.
Over $2 million, and then
With Tennessee.
was with Tennessee, University of Tennessee's quarterback last year, and then chose to hold out, which was a very odd play because this is the first time we've seen, other than like NFL holdouts in college in this NIL age, a holdout. And so
I thought he tried to renegotiate. Is that what you mean?
yeah, a holdout just means I'm not coming to practice. I'm not coming to team
He thought
events.
since it was in spring football that
Yeah, he missed the first.
He had the leverage on the Tennessee. And to Tennessee's credit on this,
Yeah.
they let him go.
Good for Tennessee.
But Tennessee's the one that sued the NCAA to expand NIL deals.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it bit them on their little orange fannies.
Okay. Well, now this though is bit Nico on his little fanny because.
Well, I think that was in any situation like this. So my take is this: in any situation where you're dealing with kind of a capitalism, like I think I'm worth this, you think I'm worth this.
He thinks he's worth a lot.
Yeah. You
and he's really not.
No, he's not. Now,
well, and it's apparent because he just took a cut.
Right.
He went to
Yes.
It's official now. I think he's with UCLA.
But so that thing was either going to go. It's very similar to me moving this TV. All right. Me moving this TV this morning.
You got $1.4 million. I wish I had gotten here.
No,
earlier.
it's either going to go like this is either going to go real good or it's going to go real bad, and we're going to know.
You assured me it would go well.
That's right.
It's going to be.
I was hopeful to my own self. Like, I think this is going to work. We need it better. We got to get a better angle so our graphics are more viewable.
Yeah.
And so it's either going to go real good or real bad. And so the point is when he decides. I'm gonna like, all right, Nico. You're either gonna blaze a trail for others. So if it had gone the way he wanted it to go, you would have seen
mass
probably
chaos.
a lot of chaos of people doing exactly the same thing. I think it's going to help NIL in that it got shut down, it got turned off. Now the question is, if a bigger name, a more high profile quarterback who, like Arch Manning. If he were to do, and I don't know, knowing what I know about his family and how all that's played out, I don't think that's any chance. But somebody of that kind of caliber tries to make that leverage point in the future, and Nico may have just blazed the trail just to say, all right, it's an option now. Like, is it an option for people to now start holding out? Because the same thing happened. Chad Baker-Mazara, from what I understand, reading online, signed something with Auburn that is going to cost him financially. Like him entering the transfer portal after making an NIL agreement with Auburn has some back ramifications.
Yeah, I mean, isn't he breaking contract?
Yes.
If they take him to court, like
Yes.
I thought I was reading Tennessee might be suing
To
Nico.
get some of that money back.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and then I also heard that his brother, he's got a little brother.
Yes.
That was signed to Arkansas.
Yes. Now Arkansas is trying to get their 200,000 back.
Yes, because he got in the portal, and now he's going to go
That's
to
so impressive.
UCLA
Holly's
and
up
play
on
with his
this.
brother.
Oh, is-
Wow,
oh,
look
he's
at
going
you.
to
Look at you,
UCLA?
little sportscaster
I
over
didn't know
there.
he was going to
Listen,
UCLA.
once you know how it is on your Facebook feed. Once you pause, it's like there. That's all I'm seeing. That's why I'm like, you guys aren't talking about Nico. This is all over the place.
She's been on, to be fair, she's been on us for 2 weeks for Nico Lama Lava.
Lava Lamp. I know Alabama played him.
He was good in spots. Well, like
think
when
he's
he
that
was
good.
good, he was good. But if you pressured him, he didn't really handle pressure real well. So,
like me.
That's
like
not
you,
true.
it's-
It always comes. You always come through though.
but you perform when it's time. You get it done.
Lord,
So.
no, Tim gets it done.
Yes, true. Hey, just kind of previewing next week, which I know we'll do after this break, right before the top of the hour. Next week we're going to have who we're going to have, Steve.
Mark David Malone.
Which he was on earlier. I don't know if he's still listening, but he
Was he?
Yeah.
Doing what?
He said,
He was watching.
Oh, he was
watching.
online.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was online.
CEO
I thought you meant he
of
was, like,
Mountain
here.
Electric
No.
Co-op until June the 1st.
June
He's
the
still
1st.
watching?
Then
Hey,
he's going to
say-
go play.
say
hey,
hi, Mark.
Mark. We'll
He's
see you
still
next week,
watching.
buddy.
Yeah.
Glad to have you on.
I'll
He's
have
a-
to get with him what we can tell and what we can't tell when we were growing up.
Okay.
Bring some prom pictures, buddy.
All right, we're going to
That'll
take
be
one
fun.
final break. We'll come back, wrap the show up, and want to thank Marshall Henderson for being with us in studio on Lunch with Bryan and Steve. We'll be right back after this. WZOB.
So long. Cheers. Adios. Bye, Felicia. Don't let the door hit you.
More and more people are saying goodbye to pests with Safe Solutions Plus LLC. And it's no wonder with their top-notch customer service, quality products, and lower prices. And now with their new website, it's never been easier to manage your pest control service with Safe Solutions Plus. Just visit sspestandtermite.com to view your billing details, make payments online, and review past services. Family owned and operated, Safe Solutions Plus is located at 934 Main Street West in Rainsville. Call 256-638-7378. Safe Solutions Plus, protecting homes and businesses one solution at a time.
Okay then. Bye.
My Supply is my hometown hardware store. At My Supply, I never have to wander aimlessly around the store looking for what I need. I know that when I walk through the door, I'm going to be greeted by a person and helped right away. So whether you're looking for plumbing, electrical, hand or power tools, welding supplies, standard or metric fasteners, or anything else to help with your home projects and repairs, shop My Supply on Godfrey Avenue in Northeast Fort Payne. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. My Supply, your hometown hardware store.
This is Chris Sturra, the voice of the Fort Payne Wildcats. You're listening to Lunch with Bryan and Steve. I'd love to join them, but some of us have real jobs to get to.
Stop treating your home like a storage bin. Make room for living with Wilson Storage. No matter the need or budget, Wilson Storage has the solution for you. They have gated standard units and climate control units. They have security cameras, alarms on every door, and 24-hour access. You can even rent or pay your bill online. Just go to wilsonstorage.com or call 256-845-1530. Wilson Storage is family owned and been serving our community since 1988. Wilson Storage in Fort Payne.
This is WZOB Fort Payne, 100.9 FM and 1250 AM.
All right, Lunch with Bryan and Steve, episode 8 is almost over. Can you believe it? We've been on air 2 months now.
Are we
Steve.
gonna get to double figures?
I think so. Hopefully so. It's been a lot of fun. I hope that you guys are enjoying what we're doing. WZOB Radio. Thanks, Holly, for the production. Cindy, Tim, everybody, Steve, here at the studio for giving us a chance to do this. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback in the community. I'm hearing people each week. I hear one more person or another person. Oh, I heard this. Or
Yeah,
but
we're
I'm also
picking up more sponsors. So
Yep, picking up sponsors, and so I think we're maybe grabbing a little bit of traction. We'll see. what happens. So
we'll see. May have to put it in 4-wheel drive, but we'll do what we can.
We could just have 1 week, where it was calm before the show would be very nice.
Next week.
Next week.
It's
So we're
gonna
not moving
happen,
that television.
It's going to happen next week. Steve, who's going to get drafted number 1 tonight? Do you know?
I think it's
NFL drafts tonight, by the way.
Cam. I nearly said Cam Newton. Cam Ward from
If
the
it's Cam Newton, that will be a surprise.
University of Miami.
Okay, Cam
quarterback.
Ward. Is it him and Shador? Are those the two that are kind of one and two?
Well, I think he's kind of fallen.
Has he really?
Some. I'm not sure why.
Well, maybe his dad's loud mouth.
Well, it may be. I don't know. But
Travis Hunter is up there.
Yeah,
too?
he may go.
Yeah, Travis Hunter's the
second,
defensive back from Colorado too. Now he was an athlete, boy. He can play. Did he determine if he's going to go as a receiver or DB? Did they said that?
Well, they were debating on ESPN this morning that he could go both ways in the NFL. I thought,
Man, I tell you what,
I don't know about that. But,
I think who's the last guy was that? Well, Dion did a little bit of that too, didn't he?
Yeah,
when he was in NFL.
And Darryl Green,
yeah, with Washington Redskins. So
yes.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm out of the NFL draft mode.
Alabama may have 2 first-rounders in Jihad Campbell and Tyler Booker.
Okay,
and Milroe.
He's going to New York or wherever they're having it. He's going
Green
to
Bay.
Is it Green Bay?
Yeah.
I've heard that he's going to be there tonight.
Yeah, so
that's strange.
That's because I always have somebody in the green room that gets skipped over in the first round. I'm afraid it'd be him. Or they say you could possibly go first round to the Steelers, but
time to go. All right, next week, Auburn alum.
Milroe gets no respect.
Auburn alum next week, Mark David Malone in studio. Excited to have him.
Well, I think of him as a stat star, not the Auburn alum.
Well, that's okay. Hey, thanks for listening. We're so glad that you came and joined us this week. We'll be back next week, 11 to 1, WZOB with The Lunch with Bryan and Steve. See you then.